Yo, what's up guys, Nate here. Welcome back to the channel. Brand new synth in from Cherry Audio once again. So a lot of the other videos that I've taken a look at have all kind of been based on modules that they've brought out for Voltage Modular and expanded into their own synths. But this is the first time that they're heading into Oberheim territory. So this is an Oberheim 8 voice. It's based on the SEM module but has 8 voices. It's Mac and Windows compatible. And yeah, let's dive in. We're going to check this out. Okay, so here we go. This sea of knobs and modules is 8 voice, and before we do anything, just take a listen to what it sounds like. It's one of my favorite patches, Beautiful Imperfection, and it really kind of shows off the depth of having these tunable 8 modules available to you. Let's check it out. Cool, so it looks a lot more daunting than what it actually is. The premise of this is actually pretty simple. You've got 8 SEM modules. I have covered BX Oberhausen before. This works very much the same as that. However, you have 8 copies of that can all be individually tuned. I know some of you are going to be asking how accurate is it. I'm not really a massive fan of doing comparisons. I think if a synth sounds good and it's fun to play, that should be enough. However, I did put this against BX Oberhausen and it was close enough for me to be happy. The filters sound comparable and the oscillators are pretty close as well. I'm sure somebody else will do a more detailed comparison, but for me, I was pretty happy with the sound of these modules. They come in black as well, which is a bonus. I will leave that on the black setting for now. And let's just take a look. I want to mostly focus on the link groups and the different voice modes, because that's kind of the real selling point of the synth. You've got some focus controls up at the top, which is how you kind of get around, because it's a bit difficult to program zoomed out like this. So you've got these handy little buttons at the top here, which will zoom in on voice 1 and 2. As you can see, you've got your SEM module here, 2 oscillators, pulse and saw waves that can be dialed in with the mixer section down here. You've also got a sub and a noise, so essentially 3 oscillators actually. You've got a single LFO here. Your second LFO, as you can see here, you've got LFO 2. The second LFO is actually down in the bottom. We'll show you that now. You've got your voice section here. This will enable and disable the keyboard entry for the oscillators. It's kind of like turning them off, essentially. You've also got 2 polyphonic modes. So how these work is, if they all set to poly A, they will play voices 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If you have, let's say for instance, 5, 6, and 7, and 8 assigned to poly B, you'll in fact have a dual layered sound, so voice 1 and 5 will sound at the same time, voice 2 and 6, and so on and so on. You'll have 4 voices of polyphony in that kind of setup. You've also got mono. You can give that low priority, high note priority, and last note priority for the mono. And then you can turn on the sequencer as well by enabling it there. This also allows you to set up key zones as well. So if you select learn, for instance, you can choose where your notes will play from. So now we have nothing playing there. They're all kind of grouped in that section. And that's pretty nice for having sort of a bass note down in the bottom, and then you can have your chord sounds up at the top, for example. Let's just hit new and we'll play around with this a little bit. Let's take a look quickly at the control section down at the bottom. This link group section is going to be really important for programming your sounds. And this just determines which modules have their controls grouped together. You'll see currently with these all on the link group 1 enabled, they're all moving at the same time. What we can do is, say for instance, if we are running these in poly A, we could link 5, 6, 7, and 8 and set these to poly B, for example. And you'll see now if we turn down the frequency of these, and let's maybe set these to a high pass. We've now got a layer on top which is high passed and a layer on the bottom playing at the same time, and you've got four voices of polyphony in this case. Moving on, we've got a filter offset which will govern the filters for all of the voices at the same time. Now this is kind of important because if we hit right, for example, and I'll just hit record, and let's just play with the filter cutoff. You'll see in the background we've actually created automation lanes for all of the filters individually, which is not ideal if you are playing a polyphonic sound and you want to adjust the filter for them globally. So what you can do in that case is use the filter cutoff offset. And remember, we've got high passes on the top and low passes on the bottom. This will adjust all of them at the same time. And in your automation lanes, you'll only have a single control being added to the automation. Unfortunately, you can't really do that for things like the attack or any other parameters. It's only going to work for the filter. We've got some portamento settings here. This is really nice as well. You have portamento for both poly mode A and for B individually, and then also for the mono mode as well. So if we turn on poly mode B, or poly B's portamento, remember we've got poly A is playing one sound. And vice versa. Let's take those high pass sounds rather and just glide those. So yeah, good individual glide speeds for those two different poly modes. Now the LFO2 that I mentioned, that's down here, and this is a global LFO2 which covers the whole synth. This is a monophonic LFO, whereas these other ones you can set individual settings. If we turn off the link groups, you can have different settings for each voice, which is really nice. Then we've also got the sequencer page here, 8-step sequencer. You can adjust gate length, etc., etc. Then let's move on to the effects section. You've got quite a nice delay. We'll just quickly take a listen to that delay quickly. So there it is, acting kind of just like a normal delay. You've got spread, so you can kind of spread that out into the stereo field. And with shorter delay times like this, and let's turn up the mod depth and the rate down slightly. Let's bring up the dry wet signal, and you've got quite a nice chorus now. Right, and then also lastly, we've got a reverb, 3 different algorithms for that, the spring, room, and hall. I use the hall most of the time. I quite like that algorithm for pad sounds and such. Cool, so let's take a look at programming some sounds with this. I'll show you just kind of the general workflow that I have when I'm programming this. Now there's a few different usage scenarios. We've looked at the one now where you can have different layers. I'm going to create like quite a simple brassy sound with this, but then just show you how tuning these differently can really kind of bring a sound to life. So we've started a new patch here. I'm going to just turn them all off. You can actually just, instead of doing that, you can solo them as well. But for this case, I'm going to turn them off and unlink them. I just want to show you 1 or 2 other features here first. We'll turn that off. So now we're working with a single voice. We can zoom in. I'm going to actually just use a single saw wave, so we'll bring down that pulse. I'll bring down the second oscillator. Let's use the LFO1 to just modify the pitch slightly on VCO1. Just a little bit. And let's get kind of like a brassy sound going here. So we'll just dial the filter down a little bit. We're going to add some filter modulation. Back off slightly on that. Cool. So we'll do that, and let's now what we can do, because we've been just adjusting this one with the link off, so just remember that this is going to be completely different to any of these other modules that we've set up. Now to rectify that, because we're going to make a polyphonic brass sound here, we can copy this to all voices. You can also copy to individual modules, or to 1 and 4, 5 and 8 if you're doing the split level sounds. I will do copy to all, and you'll see they'll all be copied together. At this point, we can now start adding that little bit of magic, that sort of organic, free-running vibe when you start tuning things slightly differently. I'm going to just add in a little bit of reverb onto the sound. Maybe set up a chorus again for this. Let's just try that out with a little bit of portamento as well. Cool. Now comes the interesting part. We can go and set up slightly different settings for all of these. Now we've still got the link groups unlinked. So what we can do is maybe change the tuning slightly on all of these. We'll also add in slightly different panning for each of the voices. And let's change the modulation or the LFO rate for each of the voices too. So we can quickly just go through all of these. We'll change these up slightly. Once again, panning. I'll detune these slightly as well. Let's hop down to 5 and 6. Do slightly more extreme detuning for that one. Once again, panning. So you can see it's fairly quick to tune all of these. Initially, I kind of thought that this would be a bit of a pain to do, but it's really not too bad. And it really does kind of make a massive difference to your patches. Let's just detune that one and that one. Once again, the panning. And let's just change up the rates again. We can also do slightly different offsets for the frequencies as well. If we link these and then adjust it, it'll reset them back to the same point, but we can use the filter offset control instead. So we have slightly different settings for the filter frequencies now as well. Okay. And let's see what happens now if we play that back and just take a listen to the sort of variances in each of the voices now. this point we can turn our link groups back on, change the volume here if we want to. Change our filters here. So those variances in the filters are coming from tuning these modules now, not from velocity sensitivity or anything like that. Cool. I really like that. It's a lovely rich tone to it, and it's just these slight little variances which are making all the difference there. Let's try and put together one more patch quickly. We'll do another example of utilizing the link groups and the voice mode slightly differently. This time around, let's unassign one from the link group. We'll just hit solo. Zoom in on that one. We're going to set this to mono low priority, or actually we'll go with last actually. Dial in some filter modulation. Bring up the sub as well. And let's maybe set that to a pulse instead. We'll bring up some pulse width modulation. So we'll leave that at that. And what we can do now is I'll come down a few octaves. We'll just hit learn. We'll go from there to yeah. So that's our monophonic bass sound. Now we can unsolo that. I'll turn that one off for now. Come down here and we can program our other sound now. First thing we're going to do is just learn again, and we'll just set these to an upper range. So we have those sounds separate from our bass tone. And let's kind of bring pulse, pulse. Cool. So now when we play that back, we should have our bass note down at the bottom and we'll have a pad sound up at the top. Let's just re-enable the bass by turning the keyboard on. And here we go. That split happening again. Furthermore, what we can do is then go and turn on our sequence for the bass note. Let's head back down to the sequencer again. We'll turn on keyboard gate for the sequencer. That'll automatically start the sequence on key press. We'll go the 2 octave range, and we can then just draw in a little sequence for us here. We'll set that to 6 steps. Cool. So there you have it. So that's a really good example of how to kind of leverage these different voice modes and modules to kind of create sort of layered sounds, arpeggiated or sequence sounds, and then also just kind of really dial in that sort of analog magic by having all these variances across all of the modules. Cool. So that's kind of what I wanted to cover. We'll just end off by looking at a few of the preset sounds. There's a lot of decent sounding presets in here, particularly the pads I really like. Let's just go through some of those before we finish off. Let's take a listen to this. Turn on link groups. You can get some really nice effects with that by having two filters set to link group 2 and the other two set to link group 1. They sort of interact really nicely with each other in this case. So here we go, just two modules this time around, both set to mono, but the beauty of this is now that you've got a SEM module, still playing in mono like the original SEM would. However, now you've got a total of 6 oscillators available to you, the 2 subs and the 2 main oscillators on each of those modules. So you can get some really thick sounding bass sounds with a case like this. Let's grab some of the brass. Chords are another great thing that you can do with this. Obviously, you've got these 8 modules. You can set all of them to different pitches, so you can create pretty cool chord sounds. Let's check out the leads. Just maybe assign our mod wheel to the filter offset there. And just for the fun of it, let's just add a few of these to a different link group, turn that on. Just one module playing there, and you can hear just one by itself already sounds pretty decent as it is. We'll check out 1 or 2 more pad sounds. Here's a pad sound with a sequencer enabled as well. Cool, so there you have it, guys. Just a brief overview of 8Voice from Cherry Audio. The pricing is very much along the same lines as the ARP 2600, the DCO 106, which is of course the Juno, and the Polymode. I believe it comes in at $29 intro price, which is, again, I've said it before, it's kind of stupid money for these plugins. It's a really good synth. It's a lot of fun to play. It's got a great sort of authentically analog kind of sounding vibe to it, so definitely one that I reckon you should just pick up straight away and add that to your arsenal. That's 8Voice from Cherry Audio. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and once again, if you guys are enjoying the content, please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and consider hitting that notifications bell so you stay up to date when we have new videos on the channel. I will catch you guys again soon. Till then, take care.